Welcome back to Rockfish Farm. Today I want to show you how to slow a fast and forward-thinking horse. All right, this is Applejack. He is a 7-year-old halflinger. I'm sorry it's a little breezy out today. I'll turn the microphone off here in a little bit and just do a voiceover of what I'm doing, but I just wanted to explain it just a little bit. So he gets a little quick, and today he is forward thinking, and so this takes time, and I want you to know. So the key is one-rein stops. Okay, so I'll show you how to do a one-rein stop. It is basically you're riding them on the buckle. So you don't want to have anything choked up on your reins, okay? I think all horses should learn how to ride on the buckle. I think all kids should learn how to ride on the buckle when they first get started, and I think all horses should know how to ride on the buckle because it's going to make them a safe and better partner for you. On the buckle, what I mean is where the reins buckle together, you ride with your hand on that. When it's time to do a one-rein stop, you're going to do them at all gaits, okay? So you're going to start at the walk to teach them, then move to the trot, then you can move to the canter when you feel comfortable doing this. So you're going to hold the buckle. When I say do a one-rein stop, you're going to slide one hand pretty far down. I grab almost to where the stitching, where the braiding stops of the stitching. You're going to grab that area, stab your thigh with it. You're going to hold it and stab your thigh. You're going to sit back in your seat just like you would ask for that halt or that downward gait. And you're going to flex their neck until it comes into your toe. You're going to hold it until they get off that bit, okay? You want it to be nice and light. When they do, you instantly release like it's a hot potato, give it back to them, give them a big pat, okay? You practice this to both sides. You can also practice this flexing, as I call it, down. I call it flexing down. So you're flexing it down to the lower speed. So you can also do it just standing there at the halt, okay? Just practice flexing this way, practice flexing this way. You're not grabbing it, putting it into your belly button. You're not grabbing it on a long rein because then you've got no control. You want to get way down that rein, grab it, stab it right into your thigh, right into like the upper hip bone area. How is this going to slow your horse? I'm telling you, it's magic. So what you do, and you'll see me do this in here in a minute, you're going to start at the walk, and then we'll move to the trot, and then we'll move to the canter. You don't have to do all of them on the same day when you're first starting this. He's done this before with me. It's been a little while since I've ridden him. My kids have ridden him. He's gotten a little bit quick. So I'm going to come back and reiterate this slow moving, get him to work from his hindquarters and not pulling on his front end. So when you do this, you're going to let them walk off a few steps, 3 steps max at the beginning, and then shut them down. Okay? Then you're going to go again, shut them down. If you feel comfortable letting them go a little bit further, go a little bit further, move up to 5 steps, then 10 steps, then shut them down. Do this inside of your ring, do it outside of your ring. You want them to be good on that buckle, riding on that loose rein, anywhere you go. So this is to be practiced everywhere. Of course, start in the ring where you're most comfortable. Then once you get comfortable with that, you can move up to the trot, do the same thing. Start with 3 steps, sit down in your seat, flex them down, okay? You're kind of throwing them off balance at first, so I'm not yanking and pulling. I am slowly grabbing that rein, sitting back in my saddle, and pulling their head around. When they give to that bit, you'll feel like a little bit of a release. If they're pulling on that bit, you hold it until they release it, and then release. When you go to these higher gaits, they're going to get heavier in their mouth. They're going to be a little bit harder to stop, and they're going to get heavier in their mouth. That's what speed does to them, right? It makes them want to go, and we want to shut them down pretty quickly. Over time, and this does take some time, over time, they will learn to just go slow because they're like, well, why am I going to take off running fast, first of all, because I know she's going to shut my feet down here in 3 or 5 steps. So how many times do you have to do this? Thousands. If you've done it 10 times, you need to do it more. If you've done 100 times, you need to do it more. If you've done it 1,000 times, you might be getting close. It takes a lot of repetition. This is part of my daily warm-up with all of our horses. no matter what phase they're at. I'm always going to start with a certain tasks that I have lined up in my warm-up, and this is one of them, these one-rein stops. It's just going to remind them they're working from their hindquarters, and they're going to be moving slow with a nice cadence. We're not taking off and running anywhere. We're just going to have this nice little cadence of a canter, and it will come in time, I promise you. You have to do it on a loose rein, and you have to do it consistently every single ride that you do. If you get on today and don't do this again for another week, he's going to lose everything you've taught him today, and he won't be able to build upon it. So you have to get on today, and you have to get a starting point, and then tomorrow when you get on and ride, you're going to expect 1% better from him. And each day you're going to expect 1% better on this task and all the tasks that you set out for him. And then you're going to build upon it each day. When you get to the canter, you're going to spend a lot of time in that higher gait. So get comfortable cantering your horse and get comfortable cantering them on a loose rein. And when you can put those miles under your horse's feet at the canter, that combined with the one rein stops is what is going to make him canter slow and trot slow and think slow, which ultimately, in my eyes, makes them a better kid horse and a better beginner horse. I'm going to hop on Applejack here, and I am just going to let you watch me do this. I'm going to start off at the walk, then move to the trot, and then I will move at the canter. I do this all the way around the ring. I'm not particular about him staying on the rail with this exercise. I kind of let him go wherever, but eventually I do want him to learn to stay on the rail. That's another task that I work on. But for now, I just want him to get a go button, slow, and I want him to come right back down to me. I want him to start eventually listening to my seat to where I don't even have to flex him down. I want to be able to sit in my seat and him automatically stop. You'll see me come right down this line so I can record it, but I do use my entire ring and I go both directions with this.
So here we're starting off at the walk. Now your horse may not be used to riding on a loose rein, and so giving him that rein, he may start thinking to go fast very, very quickly. So really spend some time at this slower gait, getting him to learn to think slow, and then you can move on to your trot. So he's pretty good at this, so I'm going to move on for the sake of the video, but spend as much time at each gait as you need. You can see when I ask him to stop, I eventually want him to pay attention to my seat. So I'm going to really sit in my seat is going to be the first cue, and then I kind of lightly lift up on the reins. It's my second cue. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab way down on my rein, right at the braiding, and pull left and then right. I flex both ways. Now when you go to pick up the trot, especially for a horse that has not ridden on a loose rein before, they're going to think very fast. So I do no more than 3 steps, and then once they're good and slow at that, you can move up to 5 steps and then keep adding a little bit further each time until you can go around the whole ring and only flex them down if they get too quick. So they're going to get stiffer in their mouth when you go faster, so just expect that. When you trot, make sure you're posting the trot. That way when you give that cue of sitting, then lifting the reins, and then flexing left and right. Now you can see here he is walking out of it, trying to walk out of it or moving his behind. Right there I did ask him for a hind quarter yield, but you don't want them to move. So you want to hold them until they stop and then give the rein back to them. You can see here he's already moving a little slower this time around the ring. He picks up on it pretty quickly, and most horses will. It's going to feel really sloppy, and of course they're not going to be listening to your seat or even the rein lifting at first. It's going to be that grab and flex that's kind of like the final straw. I said stop. But eventually it's going to get easier and easier. They're going to catch on. They're going to go, oh, okay, so when she sits in the seat, she wants me to stop. So we're just going to spend some time at the trot here. over and over and over. This is going to be the gait, along with the canter, of the one you're going to spend the most time in, because it's just going to take that time to get them to think slow and work from their hindquarters consistently. You can see here that he is wanting to walk off. So I'm wanting him to stay until I tell him to walk off. So if they do that, you just continue to flex and then drop your reins and see if they walk off. It's kind of like you're daring them to walk off. Okay, so you might have to spend some time doing that as well. So take the time that it needs before you move on to any faster gaits. Get this stop and let them stand there for a minute, and then you can ask them forward. Make sure they're thinking stop. Your horse should always stay in the gait that you put them in. You shouldn't have to kick them to keep them moving forward. You should put them at the walk and they're going to stay at the walk. When you put them in the canter, they're going to stay in the canter without you having to push them along. And so we can go over that later, but we just want to get that stop first.
Let's try the canter.
All right, so this is the gait that you really need to spend the time in to be able to get him to canter slowly. Obviously, we want him to do that at all the gaits, but the canter is the best, and it's going to take the most amount of work. So at first, it's going to be super sloppy. Very off balance. You can see he's here. He's been ridden by a lot of kids lately, and I haven't done a whole lot of training on him lately, so it's kind of like starting fresh almost here. So he's looking pretty sloppy, and see how he keeps walking off? That's going to happen. We're just going to take the time and get him to stand there. And I want him to fully stand there for a few seconds, still walking off. Stand there for a few seconds before I ask him to move forward. So there he goes. Now I can ask him to move forward. They'll spin around. I'll use the whole ring, but most of the time I'll end up going down one side or the other just because they end up moving a lot more when you're flexing them down. So ultimately you want them to just stand still, and they will eventually do that. But don't have them be perfect the first day. It's not going to happen. So just kind of get a starting point, and then each day gets a little bit better and better. And again, you need to do this consistently. You can't do this today and then wait a week to do it again, because it's just not going to work that way. You have to be consistent, and from now on, this needs to be your warm-up every single day for as long as you're riding that horse. That's what's going to make them a really good horse. Again, when they get into these higher gaits, they're going to get stiffer in the mouth. So you're going to have to really sit and then pull them around. Eventually they'll loosen up a little bit. Again, that's going to take time. Now, if you've got a horse that is not used to walking, trotting, cantering on a loose rein, again, it's going to be like they're going to think so forward when that first happens, when you first let go of those reins. So take one step if you need to. Bring them up into the canter and right back down, and then go for 2 steps and then 3 steps. Do whatever makes you feel comfortable, and the horse understand that we're not flying around this like a racetrack here. We need to just canter slow. And by doing these one-rein stops and then also spending the time at the canter, so once you get them to a point during the day of thinking slow, coming back down, they're starting to kind of get it. And that may not be the first day. It may not be the first week. But after you do this for a little bit of time, they will start getting a lot slower and slower. And they're going to think, well, why am I going so fast? Because they're just getting ready to stop me. And that's the way we want them to think. We want them to crave that stop. And so the other way to do that is, once you get them slow, spend some time in the canter. So let them go on a loose rein and just go around and around and around, and then eventually outside of the ring, but get them to put those miles under their feet. That's the other ticket on how to get them to canter slow. So the one rein stops, get them to kind of work from the hindquarters and thinking slow, but then canter them. If you don't ever canter them, then they're always going to be more forward. You got to get some of this happy energy out of them and get them moving and get these miles under the canter, under their feet.
Why do you always want to go over there? Once you get them to a speed that you're comfortable with, it may not be the slowest it's ever been, but once you're at that speed where you're comfortable with riding it out, let them canter. Let them canter and get those cantering miles under their feet, because that is also what is going to help them become a slower mover, a slower thinker. You want them to crave that stop. Like, when do we get to stop, right? So they're always thinking coming down. So if you never canter your horse, they're always going to be ready to go, right? So if you do this every single day, and today you can see some of those times he was hard on that bit for me. It took a little bit. It looked a little bit sloppy, especially from that canter. When I come down from the canter, I am not just yanking that head around. I am sitting in my seat. I'm lifting my reins to give them a warning that we're getting ready to stop. And then I'm sliding my hand down, and it's bumpy and he's off balance and everything. And it won't always be like that. It'll be a nice smooth transition down. They're going to be craving that stop. Yes, please let me stop. I will stop. And then you can flex them around to keep their head and neck really soft. And you can see sometimes he gets a little stiff to this side, and I'm just kind of bumping him off that. Because I want him to pull his own head around. I don't want to pull it myself. I want him, see if he'll do it this way. See, bump, bump, bump. Okay, and then nice and light. See, I didn't even have to touch the rein, and he just knew to bring it over. There we go. So, get those cantering miles under your feet, your horse's feet, and get them doing some one-rein stops, and that canter will become super slow. Thanks for watching today. We'll see you next time.